So, Major Sarah Schechter is the branch chief of readiness and training at the 86th Airlift Wing in Ramstein, Germany. She is known for training, education, and warfighter readiness as the second largest chapel staff in the Air Force. It's a big base. She advises bases in Germany, Portugal, and Spain, ensuring the free exercise of religion to 50,000 military personnel and their families. She's a doctoral candidate on full scholarship at Wesley Theological Seminary. She has 2 master's degrees in rabbinical ordination from the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, the Los Angeles School. Some of her numerous recognition and awards include Chaplain of the Year, the Air Force Meritorious Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal with 2 stars. I guess that means she was there twice, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. So it's a thrill for me to present my daughter, Sarah.
Thank you, Abba. Thank you so much. Thank you. Abba is Hebrew for father, and this is the greatest Father's Day gift to me. Greatest Daughter's Day gift to be able to be here with my dad's community and to share a little bit about, let's see, okay, to share a little bit about how I am walking in the footsteps of my father. So thank you again for that beautiful introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm having a hard time. I just want to put everyone in gallery view so I can see your faces better. Hello. Okay.
Hi.
At any point, if it happens to be that I'm breaking up because of connectivity issues, please feel free to just speak up and let me know. Let me just see, is everyone here, or has everyone here served in the military? Or do we have members who, okay, not everyone. So can I just see a show of hands who has served in the military? Okay. And who has served in the Navy? Any Navy? And how about Army? Yeah, Hua or Huya. And how about Air Force? Okay, we are a minority. So thank you for other branch members for tolerating those of us in the Air Force. One team, one fight, right? So let me just begin by saying that I joined the Air Force about a little more than 17 years ago. And joining the Air Force for me was a direct result of September 11th. I had never prior decided to join the military while I was going to school to become a rabbi. But something about our country being attacked triggered for me the urgency that I wanted to help defend our country. And I wanted to be there for those who were defending our country. And I link that internal soulful connection with my country directly with my father, because my father served for a few years in the Air Force, and he always spoke lovingly of his experience. So if I hadn't had that experience with him, I don't know that I would have had the same initial gut reaction on September 11th to call the recruiter the next day and ask if they needed a rabbi. So being raised by those values definitely impacted that empathy response for my nation, and to be there when my nation was calling out for help. So first, let me just share also a little bit about what a chaplain does. A chaplain in the military is similar to a hospital chaplain. Is there anyone here, can I just see a show of hands? Has anyone had experience with a military chaplain or a hospital chaplain? Can I see a show of hands? Let's see, I'm gonna just keep your hands up for a second. I just wanna look on the different screens. Okay, military hospital chaplain. I'm just going through seeing everyone. Okay, thank you. You can put your hands down. So a chaplain provides pastoral care. So we are there to provide counseling. We do a lot of short-term counseling, and we also advise leadership. We also, we go where the military goes. And just like in the book of Ruth, where Ruth told her mother-in-law, Naomi, where you go, I shall go. That is very much how I see my role in the chaplaincy. Where the military goes, that is my community, and that's where I go. And one special benefit of a military chaplain over going to see another type of psychological professional is that when a person comes to see a chaplain, they have what is called privileged communication. Privileged communication means that when the member comes and speaks to the chaplain, that information is completely private. There are no records, and nothing that the person says to us can ever be divulged. So that person has absolute confidentiality. That's important to a lot of military members who are struggling with depression or extramarital affairs. I mean, whatever it is that is something very private, something that someone might feel ashamed of, something that is extremely, let me just say, very private and concerning, they can go and talk with a chaplain without any consequence. And that is, so we are there to help people talk. Often, just being able to have someone to speak with, to get it off their chest is very beneficial, but we also are religious leaders, so we provide that support as well. So that's what a military chaplain does. But we're not just counseling all day. We also provide morale events, and there's a lot of administration involved in our work as well. Let me just pause for one moment. Does anyone have any question on what a chaplain does? Nope. Okay. So also, as a Jewish chaplain, I lead.
We have a couple of hands that are raised.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I missed it. Go ahead.
No, Larry, do you want to?
Will you be my, Steve, will you be the MC for the questions for me?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Larry?
My hand was raised from before.
Oh, okay. Peter? Okay, they had a raise from before. Okay, we'll let you get back.
Okay. So that's just a little bit about what a chaplain does. I've deployed several times, and I would say that the deploying, going to a war zone is the most exciting, meaningful work that I've ever done, and probably in my life. Just being there for people, all the administrative tasks, they fall to the side, and you're just doing that which you raise your hand to do by serving our military personnel in a time of need. So one story that stands out that I'd like to share is, for example, I am married, have a husband who's a civilian rabbi, and we have a 14-year-old daughter. And the first time that I got notification to deploy was a couple weeks after I got home from after delivering a baby. And I received a phone call while I held my newborn in my arms, and they said, Chaplain Schechter, we have information that you are going to deploy. And as you can imagine, that was a very painful moment for me to have. Luckily, someone was looking out for me, taking care of me, and they pushed off that deployment until a year later. However, as you can imagine, every single day I was thinking about that I'm going to have to leave a 1-year-old baby behind. So that is where thank you for your sacrifice comes in, right? Like when you're loving your job, there's no, all right, what does it mean when people say thank you for your sacrifice? But when you have to leave behind a nursing baby, then that's where it really becomes real. So a year later, I was up all night packing, making sure all of my will, my forms, power of attorney, everything was in order. And when the sun started to come up, I grabbed my duffel bag and kissed my sleeping baby goodbye. And I kissed my husband goodbye. And I went downstairs to the taxi that was outside waiting. And I started to load up all of my belongings into the trunk. And then I went into the taxi and I looked up in the building that we were living in, and I could see my husband standing in the window holding our baby, looking down, watching me. And the taxi driver somehow sensed that this was a moment. And he said, you just let me know when you're ready. So I was in my uniform. And so I sat there for a moment, was grateful for this driver's kindness, looked up one more time in the muted light, and I said to the driver, let's go. And from that moment, I told myself, I can't feel sorry for myself, even though I was going through a very difficult time, very anguishing moment. I said to myself, this is not about me feeling sorry for myself. This is about me being present for those parents who have entrusted their sons and daughters to me to look after them. So I built you know what a T-wall is, right? It's made of metal and concrete, and it protects you from the blast of an explosion. I just, in my mind, for the next several months, made an emotional T-wall to protect myself from those explosive, powerful feelings of guilt. So when I wasn't feeling horribly guilty, which happened every night when I was tired at the end of a 12-hour shift, when I wasn't feeling guilty, I was feeling like I was doing very meaningful work. And if it hadn't been for the attacks on our country, I wouldn't have been in Iraq, for example, or Qatar or Kuwait. I wouldn't have been in those places. I would have been in the United States. But these were special times, and this is how I wanted to serve my country. And that's the story of how I went on my first of about 7 deployments in my daughter's first 6 years of life. As you can imagine, I felt at times concerned about the impact of this on our daughter. And I have a good news story. One day, many years later, I'd say my daughter was maybe 8 years old. I was running out the door to work, and my daughter said, "Mommy, look at me, look at me." And I said, "I can't, I've got to rush to work." She said, "Mom, please look at me." I said, "I can't, I have to go." And she said, "Mom, please." And a little voice in me said, "Sarah, look at your daughter, for goodness sake." And I turned around, and there was my daughter standing with her left hand saluting me. And I thought, ah, my daughter wanted to show me that she's saluting me as I go to work. And that was a great relief for me to know that I was able to take still good care of our daughter, despite being missing for several years of her life when you add it all up. I need to get a tissue for myself. So, it's hard to tell that story without some tears. And you know what? People sacrifice in so many ways. It made me realize that how much fathers miss their children when they deployed, not just the mothers. And it made me realize also, people sacrifice all the time. Yeah, you don't have to wear the uniform to serve your country. And people work hard to support their families, them and their spouses supporting them, and the family supporting each other. This is not just in the military. People do this every day in so many ways. Let's see, what else can I share with you? Here I am in Germany, and it's been an incredible experience for me. I never planned to go to Germany, and here I am, a Jewish person here. I have family who were murdered in the Holocaust, and because I'm aware of what happened to my family, it's a part of me and how I look at the world. I think about the Holocaust probably just about every day, because I know that this can happen. And because of that, I think that it makes me especially sensitive to, if I see anti-Semitism going on, or any people being persecuted. It also, though, makes me feel an especially closer connection to the United States, because the United States, despite its faults, has done so much that is right. And I am free as a Jewish person to live and with religious freedom. So many people are able to do that in our country, and so I don't take that for granted. It makes me grateful, and I think there's a context for everything that happens, and I'm really grateful for what the United States has allowed me to do, and all faith groups to do, minorities. So I live in a completely German neighborhood, and my neighbors, who are 85 years old, were children during the Holocaust, and they know that their parents were aware of what happened. And this has been an amazing experience for me to have my neighbors, because they are very beautiful people who have reached out to me and have shared how much the Holocaust does not reflect their values whatsoever. So as you can imagine, a Jewish person hearing from Germans that how much they abhor what happened, how shameful it was, that's been very healing for me. Not everyone gets to hear from the descendants of people who were involved in murderous crimes, to hear from that kind of person that we're sorry that ever happened, and we don't support that at all. So I'm very blessed to have that experience. In terms of COVID-19 out here, every day, right, just like in the United States, it's a dynamic situation, and the restrictions are, in terms of what's opening up little by little, it's complicated, right? So we, as a religious organization at the base, we have about 9 different religious groups that we provide services for. And there are complicated rules and that we have to follow. So every day we're keeping up to date with the changes and the lifting of restrictions and trying to maintain everyone's safety throughout. So that's part of what we're doing right now. Also on the base, people, we are providing various physical locations, and also our chaplains are out and about with units, working, advising leadership in terms of, you know, the social situation in the United States, and helping leadership process the situation with their supervisees. Just trying to help everyone feel that everyone has an opportunity to express their feelings, that people are listening to each other, and that we support each other, and try to get to a state of back to feeling like a team, that once again, a cohesive team. That is essentially what's going on. As you can see behind me, a lot of boxes, and that is part of being a military family, active duty. You're moving around a lot, and you don't always unpack everything that you have. So I've been out here for about 10 months, and I still have some boxes to unpack. But you also see behind me this flag, folded flag, and that is for my father-in-law, Eugene Charnas, who, when he passed away, my husband received this flag in memory of him. So my father-in-law served in the Air Force, and my grandfather was in the Army, my grandfather on my mother's side, my father. So I am a couple of generations now serving in the military. Who would think? Any questions? Any questions? I love questions.
I'll put it this way. Yes, my name is Lloyd Contract, and I was wondering, we read in the paper or hear in the paper on this major force reduction of 9,500 people from that theater of operations.
Yes.
How is that going to impact your group?
You know what, that's an excellent question. And when I first got here, they were talking about like reducing the military presence in Germany and possibly beefing up our military presence in Poland. I don't have the lowdown on that. And I can imagine that for Germany, it's kind of would be a mixed blessing. On one hand, those who don't support our presence would be happy, but there are a lot of businesses here that depend on military presence to provide for their financial support, right? The hotels, the restaurants, the malls. The US military invests an enormous amount of money in the economy here in various ways, construction. So great question. I wish I had more information.
Roman?
So I have question. I was stationed in Germany from 1996 to 2000, not with the military, but as an expat. I was working there, and at that time, another function that U.S. military was doing, we were able to have big contacts, very tight contacts with US military. They allowed us to use their movie theaters on bases, bowling alleys and restaurants. Did this still exist, or things changed after 9/11? I wonder. And plus, question, are you with your family now in Germany or not?
So first, everything changed after September 11th. It used to be, for example, that in Great Falls, Montana, the Jewish community for decades held their religious services. The civilian community held their religious services on base at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Once September 11th happened, that ceased to exist. The United States Air Force Academy used to be an open environment where people could freely walk onto campus, anyone. Once September 11th happened, all these metal fences, gates went up, security went right up. And so you can't get in and out without something called a card, special kind of card. So the same is here, and that is a very, it's just a very sad fact and consequence of having our openness to the world completely violated and abused. In terms of my family, yes, my husband and daughter are here. And we have a slightly unusual family. My husband is a civilian rabbi, but he's also a stay-at-home dad, and he homeschools our daughter. He's doing an amazing job. My husband is very involved in interfaith work. The two of us are passionate about doing interfaith work, not on a, oh, can you still hear me okay? I got a sign that my connection is unstable. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, yay, yay. So we're very passionate. We work with religious leaders of all different faiths and also with their followers. And we use the Sabbath as a platform. Every Shabbat, every Sabbath at our service to invite people for dinner, for discussion. And my husband is very much part of that. So thank God, even though my husband and daughter go back and forth to Colorado, where we have a house there and in a big community, even though they go back and forth there, thank goodness they were here before the complete outbreak of COVID. I've spent enough time separated from my family, so I'm glad that worked out, that we're all here together.
Katie. Art.
Art. Hello, Art. Shalom.
Unmute yourself, Art.
Art.
Okay. So my question is, what is the public relation campaign between the base and civilian population in Germany?
You know what? There haven't been any protests. Everything seems to be very smooth. I live in Kaiserslautern, which is one of the big villages outside of Ramstein Air Base. Everyone, I have to tell you, so friendly, so nice. I haven't had a chance to travel around much around the country, but basically I find everyone to be toward the military very positive. That's been my experience. My exposure to everyone's kind of limited to the surrounding area, but the Germans in this area, upbeat, cheery, cheerful, polite, nice. Although I don't tell everyone that I'm military, but I mean, they probably have a good sense since I'm an American, so.
No, that's great, because in United States, from media, you have impressions that civilians are hostile to America, but I'm glad to hear that they are friendly. So
yeah, that hasn't been my experience at all. But then again, I live in a slightly maybe different area from the rest of the country, because so many bases, but really it's delightful. Delightful has been my experience with the Germans. I go to a German fitness center. They're nice. I try, you know, I don't want to break the rules. They're a little strict here if you break the rules. Everything is fabulous, but if you break the rules, things get a little, they care about accountability out here.
Oh, that's good.
Hey, Commissioner.
Good morning, Major. I was in Germany in the Stuttgart area in the 60s, and I belonged to a group called the Metropolitan Club, which was made up of both our officers and non-coms and German professionals for the most part. Is that kind of a connection still available to military in Germany now?
Can you repeat that one more time, just so I can better understand? There was a professional kind of liaison connection between the military and professional organizations out here?
Yeah, it was off the base. It was in the city of Stuttgart, and it was a club that was called Metropolitan Club. And it was composed of Germans and militaries, mostly Army. In fact, they were all Army. It had no connection with the military, and I'm just wondering whether those kind of liaisons, as you point out, are still available or allowed.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll look into it and I can report back to Steve, who can get that info to you.
All right, thank you.
I will.
You can even tell your father.
Okay, how about that? I'll tell my dad. So I just wanted to ask, Abba, quick question to you directly. Is there anything in particular that I have glossed over or missed that I should highlight?
Why don't you share? When I visited you at the Air Force Academy, Sarah was there for 4 years with a whole cohort and graduated with them, as it were. You introduced me to the Muslim chaplain, which was a big shock to me because of the situation that was at 9/11. And a Jewish chaplain wears the insignia of the tablets of the Ten Commandments. The Christian chaplains wore a cross, and the Muslim chaplain had a crescent. And could you share a little about your interaction with the Muslim?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Excellent question. I'll be partial. An amazing question. So we have about 7 active duty Muslim chaplains in the Air Force, and we all work together. We have different faith groups represented: Catholic, Protestant, many different types of Protestant, Greek Orthodox, Roman Orthodox. We have, what else? And Islamic, and we have a Buddhist chaplain, reservist. So I would go, we go and we try to support each other. And at times he would come to my service, times I would go to his service to support them. And this is one of the gifts of the military in general, that it can be it is very pluralistic and supportive of each other. Did I sort of answer the question?
Yeah.
Hey, Peter.
I had a question that maybe you can answer, and that is, I was curious about confidentiality. If a soldier comes and tells you something in confidence and you're having a discussion, what is your obligation to keep that secret versus your obligation to report to upper channels something that could be very dangerous if they didn't know about it?
Yes, yes, that's a very important question. So no matter, under no circumstance is a chaplain to divulge what a person has shared with us, unless we have written permission from them. So it doesn't matter what extreme scenario that you can think of, we are sworn to privacy, secrecy. Now, that said, if someone were to share with me that they have plans to do something horrific, right? That doesn't mean that I could just, that I would just let them walk out the door. I am not allowed to report them. We have no mandate to report. In fact, if we were to do that, I would be slapped with UCMJ action. I'd be in enormous trouble. So it'd be worse than me getting fired. It'd be beyond fired. I'd be in enormous trouble. So you can use your mind, your intellect, and become best friends with that person, right? Stay very close to them and try to help them. Obviously, when someone comes to a chaplain for help and they share that they've done something, they are asking for help. They're not just looking to say, to share something bad. They want help. Now, there have been times when people have come to me and they said that they are having very strong feelings of depression, images of wanting to hurt themselves, of wanting to end their life. In that situation, we talk and I ask for their permission. Can we call the base psychiatrist, and I make an appointment for them, and then I will personally take them to receive help at that level that they need. So I don't just send them away, make sure that they receive that special care, and that there is what is called, I guess, a warm handoff, that I am escorting that person, and then I let them speak for themselves. One of the things we train chaplains to be careful of is when they do this procedure, when they show up at the base psychiatrist, for example, not to tell the psychiatrist the counselee's problems, because now you are violating that privacy. Instead, make the introduction and let the person then speak privately or in front of you, whatever the counselee wants, but let this counselee speak for themselves. That's one
Thank
of
you for that answer.
Howie?
Howie.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, sir.
My question is, we hear a lot about heavy Muslim influence in a lot of the European countries. Has that caused any problems with the Jewish people?
You know, Germany is a country of 88 million people, and they brought in 1 million Muslim refugees. And it is, I'm not an expert on this. I do know that there is some people who are acting out and destroying churches, church property, for example. Not everyone, far from everyone, but there are some people who are doing that, who are against the culture here. But overall, I think that the Muslims here, they are trying very hard the refugees are trying very hard to be integrated. But I am not connected with that. I can share with you that there is a bread store near my house that I go to all the time that is not owned, but operated by a secular Muslim man. And his parents are also secular. And I shared with him that I was, after going there for many months, we became friendly, and I shared with him that I'm Jewish, and I invited him to the base to come to our service. So once COVID happened, we were not allowed to have non-base people onto the base. But once that clears, we will have him and hopefully his family as well to come.
Thank you.
Roman,
Hi, Roman.
Hi. Second question again, maybe something on the lighter note. So what foods do you came to like in Germany? Do you enjoy spargo in the spring and strawberries a little bit later, and spätzle and whatever else?
You know what, Roman? Thank you. That is a lighter topic, and I have to say that food is probably a very close second after love of God, right? And my family, I love food. So I've had some spargel, which is asparagus. They're big into white asparagus out here. And I haven't quite picked up, like I'm still not figuring out why everyone is crazy for white asparagus, but I'm hoping at some point I'll have an amazing white asparagus dish. I had some white asparagus soup, but it is selling all over the place here. The strawberries are delicious. You know what? The produce here is so fresh. Now, it has a shorter shelf life. If you're not going to eat it within 3 days, don't buy it. Basically,
you have to buy it when it's available.
Yeah. But like all the food here is so fresh, the produce and delicious, and it tastes riper than what we get in the States. I don't understand it, how in the States we have natural resources, and yet our food doesn't taste, it doesn't have as strong a ripe flavor, and maybe that's because everything is cultivated for shelf life and to be able to be transported across a giant country, right? Germany is much smaller than the United States. So there are certain pros and cons.
yeah, cantaloupes are the sweetest ever, and they don't taste like cardboard.
Oh yeah, right? Abba, we love delicious fruit, right? And vegetables and cantaloupe, yummy.
Larry?
Hi, thanks for a great presentation. Speaking of food, does the base make accommodations for Air Force personnel who are keep kosher? And do you keep kosher?
I do keep kosher when it comes to meat. So I'll eat out at a restaurant. I'm lenient in that regard, but when it comes to meat, I'll eat kosher and not mix milk and meat. So it's the base commissary does provide, they do sell kosher meat, but they're having shipping problems because every time I open up a package of the meat, it doesn't smell good. And right now they've got some kind of, they're investigating the situation, and they pulled all the kosher meat off the shelves. So, but what's interesting is that in Germany, to butcher kosher food is illegal. And I haven't fully investigated why it's illegal. I think that because they don't feel that it is humane, even though it is humanely done. The process is very complicated and carefully done. But so in order to get kosher meat, I was buying it. I can have it shipped overnight, or I can buy it from go to France, which is a little more than an hour away.
Oh.
And that's a hardship trip, right? To have to drive an hour and a half to France. Not really, right? That's amazing. So now, and then there's a lot of restaurants out here that does have halal meat to serve the increasingly Islamic culture here.
So
Any other questions?
Do-
Anything? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, question, how is it being a woman in the Air Force, and maybe in particular a woman chaplain in the Air Force?
Sure, thank you. Great question. In the Air Force, there are about 550 chaplains. And out of all of that, about 40 of them are women. So we are definitely a smaller group. And basically, you know, look, it's been fine overall. But I mean, I'm grateful that I work with so many wonderful men. And in terms of being, you know, Jewish among non-Jewish people, I don't think that there's been any issues except for that trying to help explain what is Judaism when there might be some misunderstanding. So my role is really just to help smooth any misunderstandings and help them understand. And they do accommodate when it's the Sabbath. I don't answer the phone on the Sabbath I don't do any work on the Sabbath, but obviously if there is an emergency, I do carry the on-call chaplain phone. And if there's an emergency, then of course, life and death is very important to address those urgent crisis situations. And I will break the Sabbath to handle that, because that's from a Jewish perspective, not breaking the Sabbath. You are honoring God and the Sabbath, right? By helping people who are in a crisis situation. So sometimes just a little explaining is required, but overall, I've been extremely fortunate. People are very understanding, but it requires additional work to coordinate and explain.
Thank you.
Steve, I gotta leave, so
Okay.
Steve, you got the meeting. Thank you, Sarah.
You are so welcome. Thank you for the honor of being with you. And
No, continue the meeting. I just have to run.
oh, okay. So I
Okay.
can still talk?
You can still talk.
Okay. Hello.
Rick,
Hello.
do we have any other questions?
Yes.
Okay.
When I was in the Air Force 60 years ago in August, there were very few blacks. I do remember Hispanics, because I was stationed in New Mexico, and the airman who did my secretarial work for me, Jose Garcia, obviously was Hispanic. There were no women. And so the original title for Sarah's presentation suggested to Carl was going to be, "It's not your father's Air Force anymore." And I think Carl responded that was a commercial for Oldsmobile. But anyway, there is a huge change in the personnel. Could you comment a bit about that?
Sure. So, you know, in many ways, yes, you're right. The military has changed enormously, even in just the 17 years that I've been here. We now have, as of just a couple of days ago, and this was arranged months ago, but we now have African-American Chief of Staff of the Air Force, and we have an African-American senior enlisted person, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. And that, I think, is a big change. Also, other differences are that there is at Andrews Air Force Base, Joint Base at Andrews Air Force Base, it's shared with the Navy in Maryland, there is the acupuncture center, the Air Force Center, you know, headquarters for acupuncture located at that base. Now tell me if that doesn't tell you that this is a big change, right? There's an acupuncture center. I tried many times to get an appointment. They were always booked. But when I was deployed, I would go to the flight chief doctor, the flight doctor, who was trained in acupuncture, and tell him that I need some acupuncture. I'm feeling a lot of stress. Can you give me some free acupuncture? So that's a big difference. Also, I remember decades ago saying to myself, the military needs to learn yoga. Well, guess what? They are doing meditation and yoga. All of this has been incorporated. When I first started the military, we didn't have also, right, the smartphones like we do today. Didn't have, it's just in terms of social media, the interaction, it is a very different military. And I think that it's people who I serve with, they work very hard. At the chapel team of nearly 60 people, everyone's very hardworking. No one's a slacker. And, you know, my job is, I see my job very much as in the major position, just what can I do to either get out of their way so that they can do their job, or what is it that I can help provide them to help them do their job better, smoothly, help them come up with innovative ideas. So it's less about me out in front with the people, even though I do lead the Jewish program and I am a chaplain to a unit, to a group. Basically, I try everything I can to support others in their capacity. But it is a very different yoga, acupuncture, and African American at the very highest leadership. And the secretary to the Air Force, Barbara Barrett. All right, we have a woman. So look at the makeup of our leadership right now. She's a Caucasian woman.
Yeah, do we have one more question, I thought? So, no. Aim went down. Roman.
Yes, last question. So when I was there, the Air Force had very big presence at Frankfurt International Airport. There was airfield in Wiesbaden. I think they just pulled out from the Hahn airport. So very big reduction in American presence in Germany. My question is Friedberg Army Barracks, where Elvis Presley used to still being used by U.S. military or not?
What's the name of that place?
Friedberg.
Greenberg.
Yeah.
I'll look into that and report to the General Phil Schechter.
Okay.
Joe, you have a question?
Yes, good morning. Very nice presentation. I also was living in Germany when I was in the service, and I enjoyed it. I was in the northern part of Germany. I had a question related to, because of the virus that's out there now, if you could comment a little more about how you communicate to the various guys out there. You know, now in the States here, sometimes people go to a religious service in their automobile, for example.
Yes.
They have to wear a mask when they go to a service. Do you find that a lot of the guys in the military, they wear a mask? Are they still practicing the 6 feet away concept? Just how is your communication? Do you find that you have to go through Zoom more to communicate with the soldiers? How has communication changed because of the virus?
Thank you, Joe. So when it first started, and so in Germany, we never had to fully quarantine, but there were big, high penalties of thousands of dollars if you were caught congregating with, you know, more than 2 people, for example. In terms on base, it was more relaxed, a lot more relaxed, but we stopped all of in-person services and we were Zooming services. By the way, we don't have Wi-Fi at the chapels here, and we have about 5 chapel facilities here. We have no Wi-Fi. So how did we continue to keep services going, right, for the 66,000 people in the Kaiserslautern Ramstein community? What we did is everyone used their personal data and streamed, and that's what we did. And we streamed the programs either from the chapel off of people's personal data devices and plans, or some of us did it from home, where if we don't have an unlimited plan, we did it through our home Wi-Fi. So I was doing services that way. And also, so now that things have opened up, at first we had to, in a place that had the seating capacity of 500, no more than 46 people were allowed in. They wanted 10 centimeters distance. Now, a week and a half later, it has relaxed, and within 1.5 meters, which is like 6 feet, round, everyone is allowed to be, and twice that amount of people are allowed in. So however, so I'm doing Friday night services for the first time in our own location in the sanctuary this Friday. I guess that's tomorrow. And but on Saturdays and Sundays, I continue to provide Hebrew school and Saturday afternoon Torah study through Zoom. So it's amazing. I've gotten accustomed to doing this routine. The sun sets here, by the way, at close to 11 p.m. So we also do this late night Havdalah through Zoom. It's cute. And it's just the way of life. So in terms of the mask, you can go to restaurants now. You can have up to 10 people sitting together, but they're still very everyone's trying to figure this out and be compliant. So you don't wear a mask when you're eating. Folks, by the way, just be careful. If you're driving, don't wear a mask when you're driving, because you could pass out. So it's not necessary to wear it when you're in your own space. And I noticed in the stores out here, by the way, the Germans, everyone is trying to kind of fudge it. I wish I had a mask with me right here, but they kind of just wear it right here so that they can breathe through their nose. Everyone hates the mask, but are trying to do the best they can. And we only have, by the way, 1 person in the entire Rhineland-Pfalz area, the entire, I guess, the district, only 1 person with COVID-19 infected out of everyone, 1 person.
Lloyd?
Yes, I'd like to talk about a different area. And
Okay.
this is education.
Okay.
I was wondering how, since you've had many places that she's been educated at, how do you find the education in Germany as compared to, let's say, stateside or even other countries?
Lloyd, really good question. I don't know the answer, just because my daughter is homeschooled and I haven't attended any school out here in Germany, but they have a really good reputation out here. That's sorry. I could speak more. I could speak more to Spargel, to white asparagus, than to that.
Do we have any more questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Would anyone like to hear the 23rd Psalm sung in the original Hebrew? That is the 23rd Psalm is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want."
Right.
Why not?
Would you like to hear that?
Yeah.
It's a good way to close the meeting.
Whatever?
It's a good way to close.
Okay. Good, good. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull this up. Okay. Okay, here we go. I know it by heart. I can't, let's see. Do I have it? Psalm 23. Oh, good. Here we go. Hebrew. Here we go. All right. Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai roi lo echsar, v'hinot esher vitzeni, al mei menucho yenachaleni. Nafshi yeshover, yancheni v'magle tzedek l'man shemo. Gam ki eleh begates al-mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umishantecha ay 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 hema yanachamuni. Taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, taroch lefanai shulchan, neged sorerai, dishanta vashemen roshi, dishanta vashemen roshi, dishanta vashemen roshi, kosi revaya, ach tov v'chesed, yirdefuni, kol yamei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai. Ay, 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 le'orech yamim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Does anybody have anything else to bring up before our guest leaves and before we call the meeting to a close?
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at that juncture, I will now close the meeting.
Bye, Steve.
So I don't think this light